HPA or hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. What is that? It's stress. That's all it is. That's the stress response. That's the clinical name for the stress response. It's also called the fear response, all right, by a lot of people just as a kind of a slang term, but the clinical is the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. And according to the CDC, approximately 90+% of all illness and disease is related to stress. According to Stanford University and Dr. Bruce Lipton, it's 95+% of all illness and disease. So Tim, let me ask you a question, and then we'll duke it out here in a minute, emotional versus structural and chemical. But how can someone tell if their HPA axis has been activated? Is there a way to tell that?
Great question, Alex. Yes, sir. So here's what this has happened to every single one of us. So this will make sense to everybody on our call tonight. So when you go out in the sunshine and you're inside in the fluorescent lights and you walk out in the sunshine and it's much brighter out there, your pupils have to constrict to keep the light from hurting your retina, right? So many times people say, well, I feel like if I could just sneeze, I'd feel better. Or when I go out in the bright sunshine and I look at the sun, I start sneezing and sneezing and sneezing. Okay, so here's what's happening. As soon as I walk into the sunshine with my dilated pupils, the stressor in my life is I'm going to get retinal damage from sunlight because my pupils are dilated. So if I can adapt, Alex, if I can adapt chemically to my stressor, then my hypothalamus will tell my pituitary to tell my adrenal gland, give him some adrenaline so his pupil can constrict. He can focus his pupil and keep the sunlight from getting in. So if I go out in the sunshine and my adrenal glands are exhausted, my HPA axis is firing so often it's exhausted, I'll go out in the sunshine and my hypothalamus will tell my pituitary to tell my adrenal glands to give me some adrenaline to close my pupil. Well, if all that's happening too slow, I'll start sneezing and I'll go, achoo, achoo, achoo. Guess what you can't keep open when you sneeze?
Your eyes.
Your eyes. So your eyes are going to close because you're sneezing, not because you're making adrenaline.
Yeah. Whoa. Whoa. Wow. That's unbelievable. I never knew that. So what you're saying is basically that your central nervous system or your unconscious mind, one or the other or both, are against your will causing you to sneeze so that it'll make your eyes close because you're in stress and the sun could hurt your eye, right?
So, because you're failing to adapt to the stress in the first pathway, your body has a backup pathway so that you don't go blind.
I never knew that.
Yes, sir. Oh, man, so there's a bunch of people on the call right now, and we're in Middle Tennessee, so it's like 6:40 right now, and a beautiful sunny sky out. I bet you there's 5 people right now with sunglasses on this call on top of their head or around their neck or in their pocket because they're not adapting with their pupils because their adrenals are so exhausted. And Alex, the reason for this is because it's a slow chemical messenger signal. It's a chemical problem.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a chemical problem.
Okay. Let me give you the other. Can I give you the other side?
Sure. All right.
All right. How can you know if your HPA axis or stress has been activated? All right. Well, the emotional answer is stress, of course, most commonly exhibiting as either anxiety or sadness and depression. It's usually one of those two. Now, it can be 1,000 different things. It can be anger. It can be irritation. It can be low self-worth. It can be rejection. It can be I'm not safe. It can be inferiority. It can be so many things.
So Alex, let's deep dive this, and I want to take you head on this, and let's get to the bottom of this. And I want our audience tonight to absolutely tell us: is this a chemical problem? This is an emotional problem. You said depression. You want to stick with that?
Well, it's one of them.
Well, let's do that one. Let's deep dive depression. So depression is a lack of serotonin, right? And serotonin is
Chemical imbalance in the brain. Everybody's heard that. You
Sure.
go to the doctor, you're depressed. He said you got a chemical imbalance.
But ladies and gentlemen, you make serotonin from your body bioconverting melatonin. And melatonin comes from you sleeping. And so if you have high cortisol and you can't sleep, you can't make melatonin in the amount that will be bioconverted to serotonin. So if you lack that, you're depressed, which is a chemical problem.
But why are you not sleeping? Why are those things happening? What's the reason as with that person as opposed to one who those things are working correctly?
So if you take cortisol inhibitors and you block that high cortisol, truthfully, Alex, you solve the equation once. If you can get a true answer to the stress or get something remediated from the trigger of that stress, you can cause the cortisol expression to stop. So I'll give you that one on the emotional side of the triangle. But let's do a deeper dive on the chemistry part. When we have a fight or flight response, if you chase me around my house with a chainsaw and you've got a ski mask on and some coveralls and I'm running and screaming for my life, I have got to have sugar to go to my leg muscles so that I can continue to run. So I have to have sugar as a fuel source, right? So when I have cortisol secreting, then what my body will do is it will make me less insulin sensitive because I need the sugar to go to my leg muscles as a fuel source. So my blood sugar will go up when I have a increase in cortisol. Now, ashwagandha can actually help my blood sugar by lowering my cortisol. Did you know that?
Yeah, I did.
Yes, sir. And also, like, I'm not worried about not catching a cold. I don't care if you've got a cold. I'm not worrying about you giving me a cold. I'm worrying about you chopping me up in small pieces. So my immune system will turn off so that all my energy will go to my leg muscles. So see how this is a chemistry issue?
Yeah, but here's the other deal, okay? You can fix all the chemistry. You can fix all the structure. But if that person has a significant emotional trauma that has never been resolved, that trauma will send a fear signal to the hypothalamus in the brain, and it will turn on the HPA axis from nothing but that trauma.
Yes, sir. And guys, here's the real thing with this. And we were going to come out and argue this point. And the truth is, the answer is not A, the answer is not B. The answer is actually probably E, which is
A, B, C.
All the above, right?
Yeah.
And so what happens when the HPA axis gets stuck on is we hypersecrete cortisol, so that raises our sugar, but it also raises our sodium water retention. So you'll see a lot of people, there's probably 5 people with sunglasses on their head. 2 of them have swollen ankles because they're holding sodium and water in there, usually in the lower part of the body. And that's because when we're fight or flight mode, we're hyper-excreting potassium, which opposes the sodium. So we get into this fight or flight thing because of the emotional stress triggers the chemical response. Now, what we know is when we adapt to the stress, I go so far back, Alex, we didn't used to call this ashwagandha. Do you remember in my office 25 years ago, our supplement that had these compounds in it was called withania. Do you remember that?
Yeah, it's been around forever.
I think it's been around like 3,000 years, but withanolides are like steroid compounds and very similar to what manufactured in the adrenal gland. And so that's fight or flight, it's stress response. And so we want to have our sodium water retention problems gone. You can actually help that with ashwagandha also.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. You want to show them our list? You ready to go to the list?
Look, please go ahead.
All right, Laura, can you bring up our ashwagandha page for tonight, please?
And Alex, while that's coming up, I'd like for everybody to kind of know that there's a huge amount of inflammation issues that go with being hyper stressed just because of the cortisol connection. So anyway, go ahead and let's go through this.
Yeah. All right. Last week we started this, and we introduced to you last week our over 40 complete foundational super PAC. And it's 3 things. And in these 3 things, according to world-renowned experts, multiple of them, including me, I'm a naturopath. But anyway, the thing about that super PAC is if you're over 40, it can take care of 95% approximately of your nutritional needs, including basically 100% of the foundational nutritional needs. And that's for emotion, structure, and chemistry. This super PAC does all 3. Okay. So tonight we're focusing in on ashwagandha. Also last week, I showed you the video and told you that the reason we're able to sell these cheaper than the top 5 nutritional company in the world that makes them, Ancient Nutrition, Dr. Josh Axe and Dr. Jordan Rubin, is because they've been really good friends of mine for 17 years and we're partnering together. And last week I showed you a video where Josh Axe says right on the video, I'm not going to play it again and take up your time. You can watch that from last week if you missed it. But he said right on the video, we're so excited about partnering with Dr. Alex. Okay. Well, the reason they're partnering with me is because we are trying to build the largest natural health network in the world, and Ancient Nutrition, Josh and Jordan, are partnering with us on that. And they are the nutrition manufacturer. Okay. But that's why we can sell it cheaper than they sell it, because we're partnering with them to try to change the world. Their slogan is changing the world through superfoods. Okay, so that's their deal. That is chemical only. We're talking about chemical, structural, and emotional. All right. And the reason we're partnering is because part of that network is going to be my interventions, the healing codes and trilogy. Another one is going to be one of Dr. Tim's creations primarily, that's called Quantum Next Steps. And we'll tell you more about that another night. Okay. But if you missed that last week and you're thinking, are they really partnering with Josh and Joe? Go watch the video for yourself. Yes, we are. And we're very excited about that. Okay, ashwagandha is basically an emotional pill. Now, that sounds like an antidepressant. It sounds like an anti-anxiety. The problem with that is Dr. Irving Kirsch from Harvard Medical School, a doctorate at Harvard Medical School, stepped out on the stage of 60 Minutes a few years ago. You can still find this interview online and watch it for yourself. And his opening line in an interview with Leslie Stahl on 60 Minutes, a special edition of 60 Minutes, was this: Leslie, antidepressants don't work. And Leslie is sitting there, her mouth open. My goodness, what are the medical doctor from Harvard Medical School is saying antidepressants don't work. And then he says, and Leslie, it's even worse than that. The drugs for these other health problems, and he started naming them off, they don't work either. Okay, so this is a problem. And so, no, I'm not talking about antidepressants or anti-anxieties. And I'm not telling you don't take those. Do what your medical doctor says. But what I am suggesting is, in addition to whatever you're doing, how about taking an emotional pill that really works? All right. Now, there's multiple nutritions for emotional issues as well. Everybody's heard of St. John's wort. Magnolia bark extract is good for anxiety. But let me tell you, the king by far is ashwagandha.
Hey,
And
Alex, let me jump in for a second.
yeah,
If
jump.
you're a military guy, they will tell you basically adapt and overcome. And when we're talking about ashwagandha, that if you can't overcome and you can't adapt, maybe it's because you don't have an adaptogen in your body. Think about that word. Genesis means to create. It creates the ability to adapt. Well, if
Yeah,
you can't adapt, you can't overcome. And
right.
so that is a huge miss in a lot of our chemistry.
Yeah. So I'm only going to read the first two sentences up here. Read them with me. Adaptogens have been trending for a while now. These powerful substances found in mushrooms and plants are said to help your body fight stress and adapt to find a natural balance. But one particular adaptogen, ashwagandha, also known as Indian ginseng, has been creating even more uproar. And I mean, I don't care that much about Gwyneth Paltrow. I mean, she's a good actress and everything. But let me tell you, with experts in the world, this thing is trending big time. And I want you to, the other thing I want you to see is what is in the parentheses under ashwagandha. What I believe ashwagandha does, encapsulated into one little one-line takeaway, is this. It is an automatic stress adaptation and much, much more. And please see that word, automatic. What does that mean? It means you don't have to try with your willpower not to get stressed. It'll do it for you, okay? So, Laura, if you could please scroll down to the first one. So what are the health benefits from taking ashwagandha? And Tim, just jump in on any of these you want to. All right.
I'm enjoying the show. Go ahead.
Okay. One of the biggest things that people come to the healing codes for, and this has been for every bit of the 23 years that we've been around, we just passed 23 years this April 15th, is sleep. All right. And ashwagandha is one of the big natural substances that the doctors and experts give to almost every single person that comes in saying, I'm having trouble sleeping. Okay. So if you're having trouble sleeping, this would be, if not number one, certainly close to number one.
Hey, Dr. Alex, can I make a comment on that?
Yeah.
I don't think, and I don't want anybody to leave with the impression, I don't think that's because, matter of fact, let me go stronger than that. I believe completely it's not because ashwagandha is a sedative that knocks you out and lets you sleep. It's
Right.
not sedating you. What it's doing is turning off the thing that's excitatory. So it
Right.
down regulates cortisol. So we're not going to make you a zombie with ashwagandha. We're going to take the hyperstimulation, upregulated cortisol expression and block it. So I don't like to have people take it 20 minutes before bed and think they're going to get knocked out. I like
Right.
to take it in the evening, like dinner time, and start to get the pace of the day down regulated and go into that natural circadian rhythm of going parasympathetic and resting and recovering.
Amen. Absolutely. And that's a great point. Thanks for bringing that out.
Yeah.
And by the way, while Tim was saying that, I was looking at the top of the page, and that is such a great sentence. Let me just read that. Ashwagandha for many centuries has been used to increase energy, improve overall health, reduce inflammation, reduce pain, reduce anxiety. I mean, all of that from this one pill, the emotional pill, and maybe a little bit chemical. All right. So improve sleep. All right. Scroll up a little bit, please, Laura. Now, this is the number one complaint we've had at the Healing Codes for 23 years. Stress, anxiety, depression. All right. And that is the absolute wheelhouse of ashwagandha. That's what it does best. That's what, if you go to a professional baseball player and ask him to play football, he may be good, all right? He may also be horrible. You may give him the football and he may not be able to throw it at all and even laugh and say, yeah, I'm not very good at football. But, well, ashwagandha, the thing it's best at is stress, anxiety, and emotional relief. Now, yeah, chemical too, as Tim said, but it's known. It is known around the world for stress, anxiety, emotional. Tim, you want to add anything to that?
Brother, you caught
Mouth
me.
is full. Perfect timing.
You caught me eating my beet tablets here. Go ahead.
Okay. Scroll up, please. Yeah, that's right, Laura. Scroll up. A lot of studies say that ashwagandha boosts your brain health. It is preventative and has a healing effect for neurological issues. Okay, so this is emotional, neurological, chemical, all in one pill. All right,
Alex, I totally want to comment on this if I could. Yeah. So we have patients with high cortisol in every wake of life. It doesn't take much to find a stressed out person with high cortisol. They're young people, they're middle-aged people, they're old people. But with the older people who are under the care of neurologists, many times they're getting CAT scans or brain scans, and they're doing all kinds of evaluations on those brain scans. Very often they'll measure the gap between the cranium and the brain. And as that gap increases, it means that the brain is atrophying. Brain atrophy always comes in response to high cortisol. So when we have patients with dementia or age-related decline, what is happening is that their brain is actually getting smaller, and the smaller it gets, the less healthy the brain is. Now, here's the thing. I do not need a clever individual that can solve physics equations to run from the chainsaw. I need the primitive caveman to run. I don't need a genius. I need somebody who can go left foot forward, right foot forward, left foot forward. So when we're under stress, we're not doing physics equations. We're going primitive, survive, run. And when we're running, we're not doing higher cerebral events. We're doing primitive brain, just one step in front of the other. So under high cortisol, you're going back to that primitive state of survival so that you don't get eaten. So we see that actually with the size of the brain on radiographic test.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there's another side to that, Tim, that I'm sure you know too. If you have a runny nose a lot, if your hands are sweaty a lot, that can be brain inflammation. All right.
Okay.
And actually your brain needs some help to come back down to relax that inflammation, because it's bad either way. Inflammation is bad, and also the constriction is bad. So, and this can help with both of those. All right, Laura, scroll up a little bit. Athletic performance. It's been found in studies to help you actually run faster, lift better, play harder, recover faster, okay, with ashwagandha. Incredible. Tim, anything on that one?
Yes, sir. I was a pro sports team doctor for 14 years. And so the most common word in the locker room is testosterone. Well, anything that raises cortisol will inhibit testosterone. So when we talk about steroids, I want everybody here to kind of go with me on this. We all use the word metabolism. Almost nobody knows the definition of the word metabolism. Metabolism is 1 + 1 = 2. 1 is anabolic, like Arnold Schwarzenegger. 2 is like Pac-Man. So Pac-Man tears you down to repair inflammation. And hopefully, as much as you tear down in a day, you Arnold Schwarzenegger back up in a day. So we anabolically build as much as we catabolically tear down. And if you break even in one day, that's cortisol. Oh, I'm so sorry. That's metabolism. So metabolism is the equal, hopefully equal anabolic plus catabolic events that occur in your life. Now, if we have too much cortisol, then we're breaking down, and corticosteroids break down and eat and gobble up like Pac-Man inflammation. But that's the opposite of building up and being anabolic. And so if we have more of one than we should, we have less of the other. And that's why it will help your athletic performance, Alex.
Absolutely. The next one, to reduce inflammation. We talked about that just a little bit. That is one thing ashwagandha has conclusively been found to do, is it consistently reduces inflammation markers in the body. In fact, a number of studies have found that it reduces the inflammation from a number of chronic diseases. Even it's a very powerful herb. Anything on that one, Tim?
Other than the mechanism of that is because it's calming the adrenal gland down and allowing it to function better.
Right. Scroll up a little bit, Laura, please. All right. Hope and I, those of you who know me, some of you know this story. When we got married, we weren't like a lot of couples who were like, okay, we want to enjoy 2 or 3 years together before we have children, that sort of. We wanted children as fast as we could have them. We had both always dreamed about having children and being a parent. It was huge for both Hope and I. The only problem was we kept having miscarriage after miscarriage after miscarriage. Now, the problem with that when we went to see the doctor was not my testosterone, but it could have been. And so if you have fertility issues, one thing related to that is ashwagandha has been found in studies to increase fertility and testosterone in men.
Sure.
Tim, you got to have a comment about that.
Well, so I think we've already addressed that, but it's because it's blocking your Pac-Man and making you more Arnold, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. All right. And the next one, blood sugar. And please hear this. We're not suggesting to anybody quit taking your insulin or anything else. Okay. Do what your doctor tells you to do. But studies have found pretty conclusively that ashwagandha helps control blood sugar levels, triglycerides, cholesterol, etc. So if you have blood sugar issues, what we get from studies is this should at least help.
Yes, sir. I have a big one here, and I'd love to take the opportunity. Alex, I graduated in 1996 and took my board exams. And when I took my board exams to become a physician in 1996, 1 in 17 Americans was a diabetic. 1 in 6 Americans is now a diabetic. And so we're facing a crisis here. So when you go out to eat, if people don't ask you if you're a diabetic based on how you're eating, it's because you're about to become one. And so I think the ultimate compliment around the dinner table, Alex, if you ask me, hey, are you eating like that because you're a diabetic? That means everything that's on my plate looks pretty good because I'm eating like a diabetic so that I never become one. Right. And so as we get less sensitive to insulin, we lose the battle with our sugar. Now, what we find out is ashwagandha makes us really sensitive to insulin. And so instead of using all this insulin to get rid of a little bit of carbohydrate, we're using less insulin because we're more sensitive to it. So we're sparing our pancreas to having to make more and more and more insulin until it runs out of the ability to do that. So anything that increases your insulin sensitivity is probably something that we ought to look at. Ashwagandha absolutely does that. Now, one other comment, we got a crisis with blood sugar, and whether we're talking about hormones or weight loss or emotional issues or energy level or libido or sleeping, hear me say this, please. Every single one of those is intertwined with your blood sugar. If you don't know where to start with your health, getting control of your blood sugar is a great portal of entry that is intertwined with everything. Is that true, Alex?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and you're right. Diabetes, especially childhood diabetes, is absolutely spiking.
So Alex, I went to undergrad with one of my friends I also went to high school with, and he is a pediatrician. It's been a pediatrician 25 years. We still practice 2 blocks apart after all these years. Where he's on the road parallel over from my office, and his first name's Tim, also good guy. But Tim told me that when he started practicing 25, 26 years ago, he almost never saw high cholesterol in children. And now all of his patients are under 18, and half of his kids now have high cholesterol. Well, you think that's from increased stress?
Yeah.
And also the loss of the blood sugar game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. All right. So those are the major benefits. There are a number of others. Those are the major ones. What about the negative side? Are there any side effects? No, there's no side effects we know of. Now, you can have a negative interaction with another medication or nutrition. We talked about that last week. The thing about this Super PAC, these 3-pack that we unveiled last week and is still available now, and Ashwagandha is one of those 3, is that this Super PAC has been analyzed and manufactured by the manufacturers, who are both doctors in the health field. And it's been found that all of these things in the Super PAC, including ashwagandha, will not conflict with each other. They will work in harmony with each other and possibly even enhance each other. So if you take the Super PAC, you don't have any of that concern. If you're just saying, okay, here are my symptoms, let me go to Amazon and see what nutrition they have for this symptom, you may not be getting any benefit at all. You may be having a negative if it's interacting with something. But with the 3-pack, you're assured that's not going to happen. Tim?
Yeah, I want to address this, Alex, and guys, this is a big one, and I agree 99% with what Alex just said. But there's 1% of our patient population who has a sensitivity to aspirin, which is salicylates, and or acetylsalicylic acid. And salicylates are found in tomatoes and eggplant. And so some people who have tomato allergies, or some people who are sensitive to salicylates, or in extreme cases, the rest of the nightshades, potatoes and peppers, ashwagandha will not work for you. Now, we have a lot of people who have tomato intolerances. Matter of fact, I'm one of those, and ashwagandha does not bother me. I can take that. I can't eat tomatoes at all. It makes me sick in my stomach. So you don't know if you're in that group or not necessarily if you have a nightshade problem. Here's what I would tell you is I would probably, if I had nightshade problems, I would cut that pill fractionally down and take a smidge of it, make sure you tolerate it. And the symptom will be nausea, might be loose bowel movement, or it might be a couple little hives, but that's going to be less than 1%. And those people are going to know because they already have tomato or severe nightshade issues. It's really not very common.
Right. And then the other question, can you take it every day? And for most people, the answer and what is considered the expert answer is yes, you can take it every day. Now, don't go crazy and just start taking handfuls, but recommended dosage, you can take it every day. It's recommended either first thing in the morning or, as Tim said, about dinner time, a couple, 3 hours maybe before bedtime, not right before bed. I disagree with that too, but a few hours before. And if you remember what we talked about last week with the Super PAC, and one of the medical doctor experts I talked to is 2 scoops of the collagen peptide in water or juice, 1 scoop of the greens in juice, stir it up, gulp it down, and 2 ashwagandha capsules. And all of that works in harmony, fits perfectly. It will enhance, not negate, not harm. And man, I don't know of a better way you can start off the day. And what you've just done is satisfy your full daily requirements for over 40, for fruits and vegetables, for, in most cases, for calcium as we age and bone health, and and so many others. All right. So that is ashwagandha. So Laura, if you can take that down, please.
So Alex, you would agree with me then, ashwagandha really helps you chemically.
Yeah, I would. Absolutely. That was fun, but of course it does. Yes. Yes. So Laura, if you can put up the bottle so they can see what it looks like, and the link over on the right of where they can get information, see the replays, order if they want to, that would be great.
And Alex, while we're waiting, go ahead. I think she's getting it right up here.
We've had a couple of questions that I have typed an answer to. If you have a question, go ahead and type it in the Q&A down there. And we'll either answer it in writing or try to address it out loud right now. All right. And again, this is from Ancient Nutrition. My friends Josh and Jordan, one of the top nutritional companies in the world, rated at the very top as far as purity, number of stars on Amazon, all of that. All right. So I believe that this is one of the very best, not just ashwagandha, but one of the very best ashwagandhas in the world. And we have it at the best price, even better than the manufacturing company, Ancient Nutrition, sells it for themselves. So Tim, anything you want to address about that? This is certified organic. Anything else, Tim?
Yes, sir. On the label here, it says suggesting serving size 1 tablet. I really believe that unless you have some type of anxiety issue during the day, I feel like everybody will get the best benefit from that, taking it in the late afternoon and starting to shift gears from your go to your rest and recovery phase. And so I've in years of practice of using this for a long time, that would be my 2 cents.
Yeah, and Tim, in the ashwagandha I used to take before Ancient Nutrition came out with this one, because I looked at it earlier today, it said take 2 tablets, but ladies and gentlemen, each tablet is 400 milligrams.
Well, there you go.
Now look at the milligrams of this. It's double that. All right, so it's 2 tablets in one. So you're getting the same benefit. It's just a cheaper price. They charge more. If there's more tablets, they charge you more. All right. It may not make sense because it's the same amount of stuff, but that's what they do. They charge you more if there's more.
Well, Alex, with Jordan formulating this, he is the educated gentleman farmer. He was making this as efficient as he could.
Yes, that's right. So anyway, I cannot advise you highly enough that if you are 40 or over, I'm not saying, and if Tim says this, I disagree with him, even though I agree with him about most things. Okay. But if he says this, I disagree. I think whether you have anxiety, stress or not, if you are 40 or over, you need to be taking this every day. And that's exactly what the medical doctor, expert, scientist I talked to said. It's what other naturopaths and chiropractors that I have talked to, sent them the ingredients list, etc., have also said. If you are 40 or over and you don't have the allergy and you're not breastfeeding or pregnant, and by the way, the breastfeeding and pregnant thing, there's no evidence that it harms.
It's probably okay, but we just don't know.
Yeah, there's not any studies that say it harms. It's just that there aren't any studies that have studied it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's why they say that for that.
So Alex, I would say that to say I don't need ashwagandha, I would have to say my blood sugar's perfect, my sleeping's perfect, my cortisol's perfect, my sleeping, my mood, my anxiety, I'm under no stress. And so if that's you, first of all, congratulations. And number 2, send me your autobiography and I'll read it from cover to cover. And I want to be like you. And if your name's Mike, I want to be like Mike. But I just
also if that's true of you, you're not 40, you're 20.
Yeah, well, I have to tell you, I have one of those at home. I think the 20-year-olds have a lot more stress now, Alex, than we did.
They do. They
Yeah,
do.
yeah,
I just
so-
watched. I just watched a huge thing on TV that was based on new studies. And get this, CNN and Fox. You don't see them agree on much, right? CNN and Fox completely agreed. In fact, what they reported was almost word for word today about our kids being having depression and anxiety because of social media and being on screens 3.5 hours a day or more, that it's an epidemic. It's an absolute epidemic. So
really good for kids. This is really good for kids.
So if you have kids who are struggling with anxiety and stuff, forget the 40 thing. Get them going on ashwagandha as long as they don't have an allergy. Talk to their doctor, make sure everything's cool. But I believe this will help them.
Yeah. And I feel much better about doing that than a pharmaceutical.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So take this down, Laura, put the link up. And if we have any questions or comments, Tim, I think we got some questions here. I'm opening that up. Here's Veronica. Veronica says, I got the pack and I'm really happy with the results. I'm usually allergic to spirulina, but I haven't noticed any negative reaction at all. Yes, this is a good point. She said, I just wish it came with a 30-day supply. Yes, for some weird reason, Ancient Nutrition did this in odd days, meaning one of them is supposed to last 24 days. One of them is supposed to last 30. One, that sort of thing. Now the ashwagandha is absolutely 30. That is a glitch. And I've talked to Josh and Jordan about that, and they just sort of chuckled and said, that's part of marketing. Okay. So I don't know the reason for that. I don't like it, but it is the way it is. They said they may change that.
Hey, Alex, but we just cleaned that up and we said we're taking one ashwagandha a day. So that'd be 30 days. Yeah.
That's right. But I think she's talking about the greens or collagen.
Okay.
All right. Let's see. I'm reading questions. Tim, I think this one is for you from Kevin. Kevin asked a question. Do you guys have any suggestions on where I can begin and a process to go through in the gym and what to do considering I tore my patella tendon 2 years ago and had surgery? My breathing and physical appearance are my two biggest hurdles.
Okay, so I've got a great, and Kevin, thank you for your question. So my background in kinesiology is every muscle in the human body goes to an organ or gland. So the patellar tendon is the tendon of the quadricep, and the quadricep is intertwined with the function of the small intestine. So Alex, one of our podcasts, we discussed intestinal health and something called SIBO. And if you can get your intestinal health magnified and you can clean up your gut health, then you can do all the physical therapy stuff to the quadricep that will help the patellar tendon and the knee. And so I like to do structural myofascial release of the quad while I'm doing a gut protocol, which we went through in one of our gut pain podcasts that he can go back and watch.
Okay, great. All right. And we've got another question here, Tim, that I think is in your wheelhouse mainly. I've suffered with allergies for 5 years. It's never been a problem before, but then again, for the last 5 years, I've been around pets. Not sure if that's the issue or if it's something deeper. I produce phlegm daily that makes it hard to breathe. I have an albuterol pump I take often, and always my eyes get dry, which produces tears. I take prescription eye drops and Zyrtec and Flonase every day. I'm 5'9", 285 pounds. I know I can live a healthier life, but the thought of exercise paralyzes me because of my breathing.
Okay, so there's a little bit to unwrap there, but we're going to hit this one right in the bullseye. So we talked about glutathione in one of our podcasts. That's all. Alex, what was the title of that podcast? Do you remember which one was
it should be labeled. It should be labeled. We
go back and look at that. But so the donor for glutathione is something called N-acetylcysteine. N-acetylcysteine, listen to this, dries up mucus from the lungs. Do you hear me? Phlegm is mucus. If we can dry up mucus from the lungs, now that's with N-acetylcysteine, which is in our
acetylcholine.
No, sir. Much better is the complete glutathione product we did in our podcast. Now, the donor for that is N-acetylcysteine. This was so frustrating during COVID. Amazon took N-acetylcysteine off of their site. You couldn't get N-acetylcysteine during COVID. If there's ever a time we needed to get mucus out of our lungs, it was probably, so I don't know what was going on with all that, but so frustrating. And then when we get through this, he says, always take prescription eye drop. Okay, so remember we did that thing, Alex, where I put on gloves and you did it with me and I showed you that cranial maneuver that helps us sleep better.
Yeah.
When he goes back and watch that podcast, when you're up in there, we even mentioned it gets rid of dry eyes. Do you remember that? And when you're pushing on that little internal pterygoid, it makes your eyes water because it opens the tear duct. Kevin will get a lot of benefit from our archived podcast on those two things. The solution is demonstrated there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay?
Yeah. Someone asked a question, is it okay to take ashwagandha if you have a organ transplant? You need to ask your doctor on that one. Okay. And that's all I'm going to say. You need to ask your doctor on that one.
Yeah, that would probably be in that same area, Alex, as is it okay for the pregnant woman? Probably, but we don't know. And and some of those people are taking a fair amount of steroids. I would say if they're suppressing rejection, certainly ask him and ask him twice and make sure he's really listening to you.
Absolutely. Someone asked, I'm 30 years old. Do you still recommend the Super PAC? Hey, listen, I've got a 30-year-old and a 22-year-old, and they both take it every day without fail. And as you might suspect, as I've tried to get them to take nutrition in their life growing up, they've been resistant of that. Well, let me tell you, I would have to fight them to take away the Super PAC. They are both feeling the difference. It's 3 things in 2 minutes in the morning, and then they're done, and it takes care of fruits and vegetables. My boys do not like a whole lot of vegetables. So this is a godsend for them. This covers them, and they don't have to worry about it. So I would absolutely recommend it. But again, always talk to your licensed healthcare provider before doing anything, really.
So Alex, we're looking at collagen as a builder, as the glue that holds your body together, your superfoods as a whole food multivitamin, and ashwagandha for, I'm going to give you this one, the emotional side of the triangle. So
and chemical.
So I think we're pretty safe there. I feel like if you're 30 and you feel like your health is challenged, it's a great recommendation. If you're 40 or above, it's a no-brainer.
Right. Someone asked, thanks for the advice, but when we ask our doctors, they always say no. Well, maybe ask a naturopath then and see what they say. They're licensed too. And hey, believe it or not, there's a huge movement right now. There's so many mainstream medical doctors that are either starting to incorporate natural, or they're just moving totally to the natural. It is a tidal wave. Okay, so maybe find a naturopath and get their opinion as well.
Alex, let me tell you, I do have a medical doctor friend, and he doesn't know much about clinical nutrition, but he's an expert in pharmacology. And he always says, you know what, I'll do those vitamins that come from food because I believe in food. I don't know about all those synthetic chemicals. Well, if that's your philosophy, boy, this is perfect because this is food.
Yeah, it is. All right, well, that's all the questions we have, Tim. Do you have?
Brother, I think we accomplished a lot tonight, and as we have seen, that ashwagandha is a great thing for helping the chemical side of your body, and I'm glad we finally settled that debate. So
Hey, time out just a second. Laura, I don't see the link. We need the link up there. Can you put the link up, please?
Oh, yes, it's there, Alex.
Oh, it's under it's in the chat. You have
Yes.
to click on the chat and then you'll see the link over on the right. All right. So I'm sorry to interrupt you, Tim. Go ahead.
No, sir. I just was saying how we've proven that ashwagandha is certainly a fix for the chemical side of the triangle. And I didn't hear you rebut that. So we,
yes. So bottom line, folks, you need to be taking ashwagandha unless you're one of the very few exceptions that we have pointed out. But you need to be taking the other two too. All right. And if you don't believe me, we last week we put up the ingredient list for all of them. If you don't believe me, send that to a doctor and say, hey, does this look like a good thing for me to be taking or not? And let me tell you, if they say no, and you don't have any real weird, big health problems or transplants or anything like that, and they say no, you might need to get a second opinion.
Yeah, maybe.
Because I've shown this to like 30 different professionals and every one of them has said the same thing. I've never seen anything like this. Where can I get it? I need to be taking this.
Alex, to add on to that, every one of the ingredients based on Jordan's specifics is certified organic.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Which is a big deal, ladies and gentlemen, because one of the big problems is that our the nutritional content of our foods has been decreasing over the years. Well, what's the big deal with certified organic? One of the big deals is that the way they have to do the land, it puts a lot of that nutritional value back in the plants. All right. So that's really a much bigger deal than you might think.
So, Alex, I think we made some progress tonight. I think hopefully everybody knows more about ashwagandha than they did when they sat down a little while ago. And so I really wanted to call this series, instead of calling it Got Pain, which I think is fantastic because we get to the basis of this, I wanted to call this podcast Shrink Wrap. And since you're the shrink and you're the head honcho here, you get to pick which one of the other two of the 3-pack do you want to go over next week?
I don't know. Can I flip a coin?
I'm here for you. I need to know what you want to do, and I'll try to help you as much as I can.
Well, I don't know. We'll let me flip a coin.
You're gonna sleep on it. Take some ashwagandha and get a good night's sleep on it. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, but ladies and gentlemen, please consider this. Send the ingredient list to whoever you want, but if you're taking a whole bunch of different nutritions and they have not all been tested by a naturopath or somebody to make sure that they're not having an interaction effect, or you're taking them the wrong time of day, or it's the wrong thing for you to be taking, or it's such low quality that it's going to hurt you, not help you, please simplify your life and take these 3 things and satisfy almost all of your basic foundational.
It's a great foundation. Yeah. Very good foundation. So
that's it for me. That's the shrink wrap.
All right, sir. Alex, I always enjoy doing it with you, man. Love you. And I'll see you guess next week, same time, same channel, right?
I love you, Tim. Laura, thank you so very much for your wonderful tech help. We have proven that we are lost without you. So thank you so much. And thank you, everyone. We love you. If you don't buy the Super PAC, hey, we still love you. We just want you to feel better. Have a great
day. We need Laura to take her ashwagandha before she gets on these calls with us, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay. All right.
Thank you, guys. Everyone. Have a great evening.
Good night. Bye-bye.